Good morning or good afternoon or evening or whatever time it is during the day that you are listening to a podcast about packaging. Welcome. This is the People of Packaging podcast. I am the host, Adam Peak, here live from the Label King studios in beautiful, wonderful Salt Lake City, Utah. You can go check us out at thelabelking.com or take a peek at thelabelking.com. That's my email address, a peek at thelabelking.com. And this is going to be important because part of the idea behind launching into a label printing company was, in fact, the topic of conversation that we're going to be going through today. So I am joined by Ned Mears. Ned is the, check notes, senior director, global standards. And Ned is a absolute treasure trove of knowledge when it comes to the 1D and 2D barcode. So we're going to get out your glasses. We're going to get super packaging nerdery today, but that's what this is about. If you're listening to a packaging podcast, you know that we like to nerd out about this stuff. So let's get to this interview here with Ned from GS1. Hey, but wait, before we get to this interview, I want to talk about the Sustainable Packaging Podcast with my good friend, Corey Connors. If you're watching this, just look at that. Look at this wonderful logo. Look at this wonderful face. Sustainable Packaging Podcast is brought to you by Atlantic Packaging. And listen, if you care about the future of packaging, and I do, you do too, you're listening to a packaging podcast, then you need more. You want to check out the Sustainable Packaging Podcast with Corey Connors, presented by Atlantic Packaging. Corey talks with industry leaders about what's actually working in sustainable packaging, from better materials to smarter design, and he gives actionable insights you can actually use. It's informative, practical, and honestly, it's pretty fun. Who thought packaging could be fun? I know I do. Listen and subscribe to Sustainable Packaging Podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. He's got episodes that are releasing weekly. Check him out. Ned, welcome to the People of Packaging Podcast. I hope I went a little 90s rapper there for a second, probably because I'm wearing my overalls with the senior director. But I appreciate you coming on the show.
Yeah. No, it's great to be here. Thanks for having me, man. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm ready for this. I love to get into the weeds and into the details with labeling, folks. Yeah, this is my sweet spot.
it's gonna be awesome. When you were first booked to come on the show, there's I don't know many people named Ned, but every time I meet somebody named Ned, I think about the scene from Groundhog Day with Ned Ryerson, and just repeats over and over. Do you remember this scene where Bill Murray walks up and he's like,
Of course, yeah.
Ned Ryerson, and sometimes he just like punches him in the face, and other times he gives him a hug. He's like, I've been meaning to talk to you for so.
Yeah,
Anyway,
yeah.
if your name
No,
Ned,
it's funny. I've never met another person named Ned. But I was just gonna say I was really glad when Game of Thrones came out because the cultural reference Ned became Ned Stark. It was better than Ned Flanders or the occasional Ned Ryerson, like you.
Ned Flanders is another one. You know what's crazy? So
That's the
I have
OG. Yep.
never seen 30 seconds of Game of Thrones, so that reference is lost on me. But Hi
Mm,
Lee Ho, Ned Flanders is another great one.
nice.
Well, awesome. So not Ned Flanders, not Ned Ryerson, not Tony Stark, but you are sort of the Tony Stark of GS1 barcode standards. If we can make you
I'll take
into
it. Yeah.
a superhero. So I guess just a few things, kind of basic information. Who are you? And where are you interviewing from? And then we're gonna dive right on in and talk about some stuff.
Nice. Nice. Cool. Yeah. So yeah, like I said, really happy to be here. Thanks for the invite. Um, I'm broadcasting live from New Jersey. That's where the GS1 US office is, not too far from Princeton. Um, and basically, to sort of summarize, how I got here, what my job role is, all of these things. Today, I'm running a program at GS1 that is all around the 2D barcode. Sunrise 2027, 2D at point of sale, part of this bigger global initiative to move everything to 2D barcodes for all the reasons that we'll get into. But I joined GS1 as more of an RFID subject matter expert.
Oh,
And
nice.
that was because my industry years prior to working for GS1 in this not for profit capacity, I was manager of label production for a retail RFID solution provider previously. So I had GS1 standards and technical specs and 3-ring binders on my desk every day. I was troubleshooting, kicking and punching printers and trying to hack drivers and doing all the things that it takes to get labels produced out there in the real world. So barcodes, RFID, managing all that data, the customer expectations, all of that stuff, it's all very, very close to heart for me. So yeah,
That's
I'm
awesome.
glad
Yeah.
I ended up where I am today with no production deadlines. I'll put it that way. But happy to steer industry from where I'm sitting these days. Yeah.
I mean, there is a bit of a deadline though, right? I mean, so I similarly have worked for,
Yeah. Mhm.
some fairly large label converters that would integrate RFID, near field
Yeah.
communicate NFC tags, RFID tags, all
Yeah.
this. All so, I mean, we could probably have a much longer conversation than a podcast world is going to accept if we really wanted to dive into all that. But let's focus in then. So everybody knows because I'm eh, because I'm in my 40s, I often
Mhm.
have a bottle of ibuprofen near me. Um,
Yep.
and and this guy right here, everybody
Yeah.
knows about this UPC code. We've all seen it. We've all seen the trying to buy some Cadbury eggs and the person sitting there trying to move the foil around so they can scan the thing. And, it's like we're all familiar with this barcode, but it's been around for a while, right? This
Yeah. Hmm.
50 plus years or something like that.
Yep.
Why has it lasted so long?
Yeah.
And
Yeah. No.
kind of speak to that.
Yeah. Totally. Totally. So it's interesting. You know, the history of the barcode. I mean, it's fascinating to me, right? I used to work with a guy much older, several more decades of industry years than I had, and he would sort of talk about the good old days when it wasn't settled. Like the barcode wars were like the Betamax VHS or the Blu-ray HD. Like pick your technology battle.
Laser discs.
Yeah, the dust wasn't settled on barcodes at that point, right? So it took a lot of work to sort of land industry on one, right? More or less, one symbol, one barcode type, one standard. And part of what really made that stick was, you had a clear need even back then in the 70s to just move faster. You can hear in your head the price gun, the cha-chunk, and the orange pricing sticker going on every can of peas on the shelf, right? And that's just not how retail works anymore. So even in the 70s, a little bit more speed, one click, and I've got my price directly into my computer, which was brand new at the time. Like it really just opened up this whole new world of digital information and computing and being able to use software to help do things that entry level folks in a staffed checkout lane, probably just shouldn't be doing every day, right? But one of the most critical things, one of the big things that really led to that technology sticking and becoming totally ubiquitous, is really that it is backed up by organizations like GS1, who manage and maintain all of the sort of technical standards behind the scenes, right? So one of our main jobs is we are essentially the sole issuer of those numbers. So the UPC codes, again, you see the barcode on every product, everyone's scanning at self-checkout, but you never scan that can of soup and get charged for like a washing machine or, it just doesn't happen. And that's because there's just this whole vibrant community of standards behind this to make sure that those numbers don't duplicate, they're all managed the right way, and that all of the technology that interacts with those barcodes just works the way it's supposed to. So it's essentially at this point sort of set it and forget it in a lot of
Mhm.
ways, which for a standard, for a technical standards organization like us, that's about the best like Yelp review that we could get. Is I never had to think about it. I just put it on there and it works, right? But yeah, so it's there's a huge rich history there. But when I'm talking about like this next phase, right, moving to 2D, the sunrise conversation, et cetera, the more you look at that UPC and understand how it works and what it's about of 70s technology. Like it's a time stamped thing to decades ago. So it works great, but it does one thing essentially, and that's sort of what has led to us growing past it today. Is we just need more. We need more out of
Yeah.
consumer packaging.
And that was kind of my next question is if
Yeah.
it's if if everything is working great, it's like, ah, yeah, you just set it and forget it and
Mm-hmm.
everything's awesome,
Yep.
then it seems like, well, then why disrupt it now? And this is kind of a leading question because I think
Yeah.
most people would realize, oh, there's a lot of reasons why we should do this, but
Mm-hmm.
the lift to get there is
Yeah.
is
Mm-hmm.
still pretty heavy. So let's talk a little bit about the why now, why Sunrise
Yeah.
2027, which if we're recording this in April of 2026, if this is the first time you've heard about this, there's going to be plenty of ways for you to very rapidly catch up on information so that you can be prepared for this. But um, so why is it happening right now? Maybe speak to that a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. So, like I said, this UPC barcode, that linear code, works fine. You turn the keys, the engine starts every single time, right?
Can I ask, I just want to
But
interrupt.
it is,
Will sorry,
yeah, yeah, go ahead.
will that code continue to work past 2027? I've heard that
Yes.
question before,
Yep.
and I'm
Yep.
pretty sure the answer
Yep.
is
No,
yes, of course, it'll still keep working, you can still keep using it,
totally.
but there's a sunrise on the
Yeah. Yeah.
horizon.
And that's,
Maybe
it's a
better.
great question because that's the whole reason this whole initiative is a sunrise and not a sunset is even though like the long term goal is we have one barcode that can do essentially everything, right? So eventually the UPC it just won't be necessary, won't be relevant. But the sunrise, right, is all about enabling more capability out of retail tech. So those point of sale scanners, the beep at checkout, we want those scanners to basically just be configured to do a bit more. That's really what that 2027 milestone is about. So let's add more capability, right, into this environment as opposed to eliminating or cutting or deprecating, right? So the the need for it, the why, right? At GS1, we're not for profit. We're a global standards organization. There's an office in every country in the world. I work in the GS1 US office, so it's about taking a global standard, a technical document, and sort of making it relevant to our business community here in the US, right? So in GS1 Germany is doing that over there. GS1 France, we're working on this whole project across the globe, and our role is to be sort of driven by industry. So we take our marching orders from the folks out there that actually have to use this stuff and comply with retailer mandates and all of these things. And if you look at where all of this is trending, you've got increased regulation and consumer demand, and sometimes the consumer demand obviously driving the regulation. The big picture of that is consumers just want more information, right, about the products that they buy, sell, consume, right, however they're interacting with them. They are basing their buying decisions on a bunch of complicated factors, much more so than ever before. And the more information they can get at the right time really drives buying decisions and consumption and everything else. From the, let's say, the brand side, so people packaging, labeling, putting products on the market, selling them through retail, and the retailers that have all this tech and this capacity in the marketplaces and everyone else, they also want to be able to provide a better digital experience to their customers, right? And also, especially from the retail and the marketplace standpoint, they want more actionable data being delivered to them by their suppliers. So, for example, if I had a more capable barcode, I've got that number that looks up the price at POS. I get the beep. All of that is good. But if I can start to add more data in a string, right? So I've got my product ID in there, but I want to add expiration date. Let's just use that for an example. If every dairy supplier, every gallon of milk, every yogurt had its expiration date in a machine readable code, right on pack, delivered to wherever it's being sold, the amount of food waste that could be reduced just by automation technology is absolutely incredible, right? Some estimates that I've heard from retailers is something to the effect of 40% of their internal store, their deli, bakery, etc., just by adding a data element into a barcode, right? Now, you kind of teed it up before. There's an entire industry orchestration, there's technology enablement, there's projects, there's all of this stuff that has to happen to make that come true. But the first step is getting that message out there that this capability is coming, right? And in 2027, getting the retailers to make that commitment to scan these next generation barcodes and be able to have the sort of checkout experience be seamless to the customer. So it's driven by global regulatory need, global demand from consumers, and the fact that we just live in a much more rich information age, and we'll continue to get more and more and more in that direction. So
Yeah.
it's essentially just a major upgrade of the way products interact with machines. Yeah.
I love it. I think, just to your example of just the expiration date not being printed onto a label or a container, but maybe it's driving couponing, or it's like, hey, this thing's going to
Yeah,
be
totally.
and so if a user has the Walmart app or whatever it is, and they can scan this, they can't do anything really with a 2D or with a 1D UPC code. But now if there's a two-dimensional code that
Right.
their phones can use, they could look at that and say, oh, this one is 25% off. Let me get this one first. And so now
Yep.
there's intent to purchase. And even if they don't scan it, no one's going to complain if they get up to the checkout place and they see a 20% off thing happen because they picked the one with the most
Yeah,
recent expiration date, right? So um,
totally. Totally.
that is what a powerful way to use data. And
Yeah.
that's just with something like food waste, which is one of the largest contributors to greenhouse gas emissions in the world, much less
Totally.
the marketing of it, the data, the richness of data now that a brand can get. It's not just sell through.
Yeah. Yeah.
They can get,
Oh,
you can serialize every single code if you really wanted to, and understand.
oh yeah, totally.
I mean, a ton that you can do as a brand with this from a marketing and a data
Oh
perspective.
yeah.
All right, we are back 17 minutes in, Ned. We had a little bit of a technical difficulty, but back like we never left. So I think I mentioned something about the potential for serialization
Yeah.
with QR codes. I know I've got a couple of projects that are going right now. We're actually shameless plug, but we have a Domino high-speed dual head print bar that's coming in here in order to print serialized QR codes and serialized information, or non-serialized as well at high speeds, in
Right.
preparation for brands doing this. So
Nice.
certainly certainly excited to hear more about how GS1 maybe envisions that, or what some of your experiences in that space.
Totally. Yeah. So I think like we were just talking about what you could do, or what is going to be possible in the future if you just add that one data element. You just add expiration date on certain food categories or pharmaceuticals, right? But each product category in retail is a little bit different. The regulation is a little bit different if it applies there. What retailers or consumers are looking for is a little bit different. So easy way to tackle this whole thing is to say, okay, you've got your UPC code and then one other chunk of data. And what does that drive? What can you then do with that? And going to a serial number, so assigning a serial number to every single product, every single unit. So you've got that visibility down to like every single piece. So it's not just a black t-shirt, it's black t-shirt number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4, right? So in retail especially, and especially for apparel, there has been a surge in RFID usage in the last couple of years, really driven. The Walmart mandate was a huge one around 2019 or so. I was lucky enough to work on that project from the solution side, so I learned a lot about it from behind the scenes.
They're still pushing out some of it.
Oh yeah,
Not near fast, but it's still, that hasn't died off, I don't think.
Oh no, no way. No, it's and as they expand their categories, right? For at GS1, we put out things like tag placement guidelines, right? So we work with academics, like where's the best place to put the tag to get the reads and all these things. So each time that expands to a new category or a new retailer starts to see the advantage, whatever, we get pulled into some degree at some point, which is great to stay connected to, and it is growing like crazy. But the unique thing about RFID, it's like a barcode you can read at a distance, right? You're not pointing a scanner, pulling a trigger, reading one code. You're essentially putting some radio waves out there and you're seeing who's going to respond back. So in order for all that to work, to read every barcode in the room with like a click, every one of those has to have a unique identity. So you're not getting 20 t-shirts calling back. You're getting t-shirt 1, t-shirt 2, t-shirt 3, right? So that just means that RFID tagging by its nature gets you to serialized identity, gets you to one-of-one identity on the product, right? And that main use case in retail is inventory management. It's reducing shrink, it's having more product on shelf, just raises sales by making sure the product is where it should be whenever the customer wants to grab it. And where that starts to, I don't want to say fall apart, but the next evolution of that is how can we continue to understand that item level identity outside of the retail store, right? And if you are to serialize every product, you put a unique ID on every single one. We call that sometimes the batch of one. So it's like a batch or a lot code you can use for traceability, but it's not just a group, it's a single unit. And if you start to integrate that into your checkout process, for a retailer, that basically gives you the end of our story and the beginning of the customers. So I'm tracking this through my supply chain. I know how many went into X case. I received that case all wirelessly, all low friction. RFID is helping out. But then when it leaves the store, you need that event to say this was legitimately purchased. And if you're putting a serial number on that product already, an RFID tag, the 2D barcode is just the perfect, most logical extension to say, let's take that same number, right? So same data, same UPC, same serial number, put that into a barcode, and then make sure that that can be scanned and interpreted at point of sale. Then essentially every retailer has a record, a white list, if you will, of products that were legitimately purchased. If that's combined with loyalty or credit card information, something about the consumer, let's say, it just opens up this whole ecosystem of digital information that the retailers and the brands can understand, who's buying their products, who's interacting with them, what are their sort of usage patterns look like. And, from if we stay on that standpoint for a moment, living in an age where computing power is just becoming cheaper and more available every day, we're finally at that sort of point where you really can interpret all that data of how every single product in my retail store is acting and where it's moving and when it's being sold and things like that. So it's just an incredibly powerful tool to move things in the direction that they're already moving in retail tech. And again, if an RFID program is in place, putting a 2D code on there, identical data is definitely in the near horizon for all of those supplier guidelines you're going to see coming out, right? As the next step requirement for anyone in an RFID program. And it has so many benefits. It's hard to imagine that it won't be here in the next year or two, to be quite honest.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, I think about if we're going back to, because the combination I think that you're alluding to of RFID and a serialized QR code is so powerful because a consumer can't use an RFID tag.
Right.
It can use the NFC tags, but those are a little bit funky, and it's I don't know what the usefulness of that's going to be long term besides what it's maybe it's. But a QR code used to be this ugly designers, they hated it. Now, I do think that we're seeing a lot more adaptation of the QR code since COVID. People know what to do with it, integrated into the camera. And if you think about this from a brand's perspective, and I'll kind of give the pitch here, is even if it's not serialized, right? Even if you just have a 2D code, the things that you can do with that code at the
Yeah.
shelf, for example, you can speak directly to your consumer at the shelf, right? You can build,
Hmm.
you can have a data library and an AI chatbot pretty easily now that they could scan. And if they have
Hmm.
a question about, hey, I'm allergic to this, or
Yeah.
I'm looking for recipes, what can you do? You could build out a chatbot in probably a weekend with how
Hmm.
fast this stuff
Yeah.
is going. You've mentioned the customer loyalty, you've got the couponing, you've got download our app. There's
Hmm.
so much that a brand can do. And I think the thing that was really holding them back was space was limited because
Hmm.
you had this 1D UPC code that was necessary. And
Yeah.
so adding in an activated QR code was like, is it really worth it? Well, now that retailers are going to be able to combine that and have
Hmm.
the one code to rule them all. Um, well, what why wouldn't you, if you were a brand, as soon
Yeah.
as it's able to happen, say, all
Hmm.
right, it's going to be painful. We got to touch every single one of our
Yep.
printed packaging items, but let's rip the Band-Aid off. Let's make this happen, because I think the first movers in this space are going to be
Hmm.
the ones that are going to grab a lot of
Yeah.
attention. So maybe let's kind of land this plane here with,
Yeah.
if you're a brand and you're listening to this, or you've heard about Sunrise 2027, I've been talking about it for a while. What's the next step in
Hmm.
ensuring that their product code, their universal product code, is integrated in, or do they have to come to you to get new
Yep.
what do they
Yep.
do next?
Sure. Sure. Yeah. So one for those the brands in your audience, especially the big picture thinkers and the entrepreneurs and stuff. Just one point to tee up here is, you've got the UPC barcode. You got 12 digits. Beeps, looks at the price. This whole initiative and being able to take that supply chain identity, right, that code, and put it into a URL, right, put it into a link. Basically, that's a convergence of technologies if you really think about it. And so again, for the innovators, for the big picture thinkers and things like that, just imagine re-platforming every digital identity on every consumer product from just a static number to an address on the web, right? What all that unlocks in the next couple of years is something to really think about from the brand standpoint. What can you do with that? What does that open up to solve some of the problems you have as a business today? And what we're seeing now, again, the 27 date is really about retail tech.
Yeah.
So we're really trying to drive those retailers to put a stake in the ground. Brands see that assurance, and then they go, okay, cool, the road is cleared. Let's innovate. Everyone's moving in this direction. Let's full force there. But a lot of brands have adopted early. So you've got some majors already on the shelves in retail stores that are already working their way through the sort of beginning phases of this and learning a lot. Prior to there being any retailer mandate or any other thing sort of pushing them in that direction. So they volunteered to do some of that early learning themselves, and there's major advantages to that, right? So the one big advantage is if you have the ability for your consumer to connect with you directly, right? So if you're selling through traditional retail, that is essentially a person mediating your conversation. They're selling your products, they're merchandising it, you're relying on their ability to sell it. Once you have a QR code on there that a consumer can scan, you are in control of what you serve to them. And you have so many different options about what that is. So with the QR code, using our digital link standard, so just putting that UPC in the link, without anything more than that, any additional data, anything else, you should really look at that as basically just the digital bridge that connects that brand identity, the sort of core persona of that product with those customers that are looking for that info. So you said it, chatbots is a great example. There are so many solutions out there today where you basically immediately start a dialogue with the product as soon as you scan that code, right? And another major advantage there is obviously, if you're doing this right, your digital marketing teams are included, or you've got the sort of scaled out, is you just imagine a map of the world and all of these little pins, and all those pins are showing you every time someone has scanned that code. So how is this product performing versus this one? How are these two next to each other on the shelves performing in that region? Just that data and that analytics of who's scanning this, where, who are they, what are their personas, things like that, just adds incredible value to what you can do with marketing technology these days. So main thing is that initial direct digital conversation, right? What are they looking for? What can they tell me about what they want? How can I serve them appropriately? And doing this in a way that aligns with global standards, what we put out there. We've already advanced a lot of our other pieces of web technology and things like that, so that in the near future, that one code can very easily take a consumer to hundreds, if not thousands, of unique experiences. So where did they scan it? At what time, what region, what store, all of the things that technology enables to be able to see down to that sort of phone or that device. All of those can be sort of known by the brand and help steer the customer to like the outcome that they're looking for. That's the big unlock. And then obviously in a couple of years, let's say, once the retailers are fully established, they're comfortable dropping the requirement for 1D, then essentially you have one barcode on a product that does everything that you really need from it. So drop the UPC, only one QR code on there, and then you're in full control of what that experience looks like.
So that changeover, you're saying, that's not in 2027. There will still be UPC codes on products. They'll be scanned. Is the expectation that that brands will do both in 2027? Yes. So no one's going to cut over and just say like, all right, 2027, I'm only going to do a QR code, because there's going to be plenty of retailers that cannot scan that QR.
Exactly.
Code. Okay.
Yeah. The easiest way to understand that is you need both during a transition period, which might be a couple of years. Basically, while the long tail of retail comes online. So you think about a product that's just ubiquitous everywhere, bags of chips, things like that. Getting to every one of those corner stores and convenience, outposts out there in the world will take some time. But what I also say is, as the retailers come online, they'll add this to their supplier guidelines. They'll put very specific guidance of how they want this managed. And once, if you have a product going through a sales channel, you own it, retailer, marketplace, whatever. Once that sales channel has committed to you, we're scanning 2D completely, and we're comfortable with you dropping the 1D, that's the sort of green light to go forward. So if you got a product, it only goes through one store, one outlet, whatever that looks like, they're fully compliant and fully ready, that product is ready to get the 1D dropped. But if it's mass market and it goes through all of these different sort of spider webs of retail, then that's where that dual barcode is going to be there for a little bit longer.
Yeah, that makes a ton of sense. Well, Ned, my last question is, how do people, what is the next step for a brand? So would they reach out to you? Do they go to GS1's website? Do they, like, I got a hold of you guys just through the website because I wanted to have you on. I wanted to learn more about it. And I'll be honest, it was one of the faster. Sometimes you fill out these forms and it's just like, I guess I'll maybe never hear from somebody. Shout out to Kelsey. He got right on it and reached out. I was like, oh, that's nice. Pretty cool. So maybe is that the best way for people to reach out?
Yeah. The best thing to do is go to gs1us.org. That's our website. Or if you just search Sunrise 2027, our marketing team will make sure the first link you see is about getting involved here. And we just refreshed the website. So if you're just getting started, if you're a little further down, or you want to reach out to us directly, all those options are right there on our landing page for Sunrise.
And you guys have an event coming up in Las Vegas, maybe?
Yeah. Yep. So we have a couple of things going on. June is our big conference. So we host a conference every year called GS1 Connect. Yep. We get all of our brands and retailers, all of our folks together and talk about all the latest innovations. And we have a huge experiential demo in the middle called Beyond the Barcode, which is step-by-step process with our technology vendor partners explaining what people have to do in a hands-on and tactile way. So we'll have some printing, we'll have scanning, we'll have QR code experiences and things like that. So in June in Las Vegas, GS1 Connect, that is a great place to go to get deep dive hands-on communication engagement.
And it's not too late to register, right?
Nope, nope, nope. Never too late. You can even register on site if you need to.
All right. Well, I've heard Vegas in June is not quite as bad as Vegas in July and August from a weather standpoint. So, go connect, pun intended, with down there, or just hop on GS1US.org. Ned Ryerson. No. Ned Mears, thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. This has been, like I said, we could talk for another 90 minutes, I'm sure, because I still have so many other questions. Maybe you should start your own podcast called Beyond the Barcode. I'm just saying.
I'm not. It's not off the table. It's not off the table. There we go. Right. You'll be the first guest. Actually, I'll bring you on, and we'll talk about that new Domino variable data printer you've got.
All right, let's do it. Thanks,
Nice.
Ned. All right.
Take it easy.